You're listening to the Green Machine podcast, your Irish football news and nostalgia, where you, the fans, get to have your say. Nick and Martin here today to discuss Stephen Kenny's senior Ireland squad as they take on the Netherlands and New Zealand, and Jim Crawford's squad as they take on, I can't remember who they're taking on, Martin. Jesus, I've gone...
Italy and Norway. Jesus, what a great start.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God! See what happens when Dave is gone. Isn't that a great start? But look, I suppose we're here, Martin. It's the Green Machine, isn't it? As you can tell, we haven't been on in a long time.
Yeah, a bit rusty, but no, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back. We've all been sick, and we were the looking Green Machine, weren't we? The looking Green Machine. But yes, this is a squad reaction show, just in case you're wondering. I like to butcher intros now and again anyway, Martin, but Dave isn't with us. He's a bit under the weather and he's working. You have COVID. I was very, very sick earlier in the week, so yeah, we've just remotely been infecting each other.
Oh God, sounds so sinister, but yeah, it's slightly true. Yep. So anyway, we're getting over it, and we're giving the fans what they want to see, and yeah, like you said, we're the most interactive Irish football podcast. So we want your views if you're watching along this evening. Is this Stephen Kenny's final kind of squad? I don't know, Nick. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I hope so. I think so. I mean, look, you never know with the FAI. They like to spring horrible surprises on us, don't they? But I mean, you would think so. Just the narrative over the last few weeks, you would imagine so. So, look, the squad was announced today. A few talking points, I suppose. A few comments on our different socials and socials of other pages saying that there isn't a huge amount of buzz or excitement around this announcement. I always get excited around them, Martin, but this is, I think, the last two. My appetite for it has kind of diminished a little bit. It's dried up, and I mean the squad in a way predictable in a way, but I mean, as always, like any Ireland squad, whether it be Stephen Kenny, whether it be Martin O'Neill, Giovanni Trapattoni, there's exclusions that are always the talking points, and disappointing ones at that. Will we go through the squad, Martin?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Let's have a look at it. So I don't have a nice overlay like Dave because, as I said, I am filling in. I'm his blood sub today. I won't elaborate. Anyway, I'm his blood sub. So the goalkeepers, no surprises really. Gavin Bazunu, Caoimhin Kelleher, and Mark Travers. Caoimhin Kelleher, of course, returned to the squad after missing out last time. The defenders, Matt Doherty, Fessi Obasele, Ryan Manning, Liam Scales, Shane Duffy, Nathan Collins, Darragh O'Shea, and Andrew Omobamidele. The midfielders, Josh Cullen, Jason Malumbi, Alan Brown, Cousin Will, Will Smallbone, Jason Knight, Jamie McGrath, Mark Sykes, and the forwards are Evan Ferguson, Adam Ida, Callum Robinson, Chidozie Ogbene, Mikey Johnston, and Troy Parrott. And I must say, Martin, the one pro to me anchoring is that I actually pronounced Chidozie Ogbene's name correctly.
Yeah, fair play to you. And we must. I think it's nice to actually start on him. He's the image actually that the FAI chose to pick with their squad announcement for this month. And yeah, he's done really well, hasn't he? Stephen Kenny name-checked him in the press conference today, saying, he took his time, was patient to get into that Luton squad this season. And now they're seeing, he absolutely was brilliant the other day against Liverpool, wasn't he? And rave reviews, rightly so. And he's such an important player for us, so likeable as well. Saw the other quote, I forget the journalist who put it up during the week, but he said that in all his 18 or 16 years of journalism, that he said the only person who ever thanked him for an interview afterwards was Chidozie Ogbene. So
he's an impressive guy, isn't he? And I think his dad's a doctor, isn't he? I heard a lot of things. I've a friend of mine was involved with Cork City a good few years ago, around the time Sean Maguire was playing for them, be a pal of Sean Maguire, but always mentioned Ogbene, always mentioned Maguire and Ogbene and saying how far they would go. I think Ogbene was in the youth side at the time, and there was talk of him going to Limerick. And he'd been on trial at Chelsea at the time, and they kind of mentioned that he's a very humble guy and a very nice guy, but his work ethic was really unmatched within that kind of underage system within the League of Ireland. And you can see his moves. They're very calculated, weren't they? I mean, he went to Limerick rather than going to England and got a string of games because he wasn't really getting into the Cork City team. And then went over to Brentford, didn't quite work out there, went down into the lower leagues. I think it was with Exeter, and then came up the ranks with Rotherham, and then subsequently got that move. But even the way that move materialized, He was a free agent and he did have offers in the Championship, didn't he? I think Swansea, I think a lot of people thought he'd go to Swansea to replace Michael Obafemi, but he waited for the offers, talk of Burnley, and then Luton came in, and it's a move that suited him. I had a few concerns at the start of the season that maybe he wouldn't get a look in. I didn't see how he fitted into that Luton team, just the system of football that they play. They play kind of with a diamond formation. They've since kind of changed that. They now do play with wingers, or they play with Ogbene up top, so he's adapted well. He skinned Trent Alexander-Arnold, didn't he? Or what does David call him? Neil Alexander-Arnold O'Neill.
Robertson, no?
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah.
Gets it all confused.
I can't
like you said, like Ogbene, yeah, he's a likeable guy. I mean, lucky enough, I've met him a few times now. Absolutely like gent and just great engagement with the fans, especially young kids and stuff. Brilliant. And I think when we look back at the Stephen Kenny era, which we obviously think is coming to an end, I think he will be the success story of it. I think he'll be the one to come out of it as a real positive of that time that, he got given this opportunity, and he'll kick on now for the future campaigns of us and be a very important player. And he's actually proven himself in the Premier League now. So I think he'll stay grounded and humble, and he's just a real likable guy, and you want to see people like that doing well. There's no attitude about him or anything.
No, and I mean he's very much become the poster boy, hasn't he? He's a very likable guy. I mean, I know I have a go at him sometimes. I'd be quite critical of his end product, but I mean the energy that he brings, the momentum that he can bring to a team, and as I said, when you have a player like that, a flary player with pace, even if they don't have end product, they can lift the team. Think of Stephen Hunt years ago. When he used to come off the bench and have that kind of impact. I know probably not a very popular player, but it does lift a team, doesn't it? And I mean, when he's constantly there, it's massive for us.
And his pace is a threat, and he's definitely an outlet for us tactically, and Stephen Kenny as well, and for the future. And I think a lot of parallels with Stephen Hunt, McLean as well, I'd say. And he's definitely going to be an important player for us. So
100%. And he comes up with goals as well. I know not that many competitive ones, but he definitely comes up with goals. Just to talk through the goalkeepers, Martin, and again, the goalkeeping situation is always, I suppose, a bit of a bleak one in a way, because really only one of them is playing. Mark Travers was having a great run of form at Stoke City. I think listen to David's stats. I think he played 13 games this season. I think 12 in the league, 1 in the cup. Doing very, very well with Stoke. Getting a run of games, something he hadn't gotten in a long time. Started off in the Premier League last season, didn't he? And then I think he had a bit of a nightmare against Liverpool. Didn't he concede 9 goals? And then Neto came in and subsequently displaced him altogether. He's been recalled since, and since that has happened, he's gone from being second choice to third choice and not playing at all. Now, I saw a loophole. I think it was Connor on Republic of Ireland tracker. A loophole that Stoke City can sign him fairly swiftly, I think, so he can go back there. I know that they're struggling a bit. Jack Bonham, another Irish goalkeeper, has stepped in there, and I don't think it's going particularly well for him. Caoimhín Kelleher as well, starting at the moment for Liverpool. But you can't really look past Gavin Bazunu, can you, based on game time? What do you reckon, Martin?
I know, Bazunu would be number one. And again, one of the ones who's kind of really come out fighting, I suppose, for Stephen Kenny and giving his chance with him. I think he's number one for us, and I expect him to be playing now for us in Amsterdam, especially.
Do you think Max O'Leary will feel hard done by? I mean, a very good save for Bristol City last weekend. I don't know if you saw it, a great reflex save, but he has been in the last few squads. He still remains uncapped. Maybe the New Zealand game would have been an opportunity to give him a twist. But considering he's playing every week and Caoimhín Kelleher isn't, it must be a hard one for him to take. There's kind of a Dean Kiley effect there, isn't there?
There is, yeah. I think it's just a goalkeeper's lot, though, isn't it? You've got 3 or 4 competitive goalkeepers who can all kind of do a job for you. And I think it was interesting today. Stephen Kenny said in the press conference and in the bit that was public and was aired on their channel on YouTube that I think 8 or 9 of the lads are actually in action on Sunday, and I think he was going to preempt in that there might be withdrawals or changes, and you just don't know with Kelleher. He's only just coming back into it. Does he fancy it? You would hope so, but I think it's just a strange squad, isn't it? I've got a strange feeling about this whole kind of, we're going to Amsterdam. They need to win to qualify automatically.
Yeah,
we're still okay technically, numbers wise. I think we can still be in contention for a playoff position, but I'm just not comfortable as well that it's all going on to then New Zealand, the friendly, and we're going to be calling up James McLean, and it just seems a little bit just very flat, like you said at the start. There's no interest at the moment in this Irish squad at the moment. Everyone just is a little bit downhearted. This is actually the time of year. I look back at, when we played in November games before, fantastic trip to Denmark. And we've also, Austria, I think, was this time of year as well.
Yeah.
We've had some great kind of trips at this time of year. And I always look forward to this. It's kind of the end of the year. It's just before Christmas and stuff. But, we're off to Holland. And, it's going to be brilliant going over to play them. And they've got some world-class stars and stuff. But it just all seems very flat. And it's like come to an end, I think.
It's an unusual, and just on the James McLean thing, I mean, I don't remember a farewell being stretched out so much for a player. I mean, we've had greater players than James McLean, Martin. We have, and I understand he's a cultural icon within Irish football. I think looking past the footballing ability, to be fair, his stats are quite good. In an era where we probably haven't played our best football, and we probably haven't had something of a golden generation. He's played in weaker Ireland teams, and considering that, his statistics are fantastic. You have to give him that. But if you look at players who've gotten past 100 caps, you've got the likes of Damien Duff, you've got the likes of Robbie Keane, and so on. Robbie Keane had a farewell against Oman. He was taken off after whatever amount of minutes after getting a hat-trick, didn't he? And you can say that was somewhat manufactured. But I mean, James McLean had his day out in Dublin, and I know David has a conspiracy theory that the caps were kind of arranged, because there were some games he didn't play where maybe he should have played, and it's almost like it was arranged as though the Dublin match would be his 100 cap, and he got a day out then, and now he's getting a day out in a fairly flat, low-key friendly, and it's kind of stretching the arse out of it. And we do retirements very strangely, Martin, don't we? If you think back to the Martin O'Neill era and Glenn Whelan getting taken off, and then subsequently ending up back in the squad under Mick McCarthy, John O'Shea getting taken off after a few minutes, those kind of strange things. If you look like Shea Given, his last game I think was in Turner's Cross against Belarus. I mean, I as I said, I understand from a cultural football point of view, James McLean is a fan favorite and will have cult status, but I find it a bit uncomfortable as a fan. It's coming into Stephen Kenny's last game. He's banged on about how he's promoted so many young players. I honestly think, Martin, I think any manager would have had to promote those young players given the pool that we had at the time. But surely this is an opportunity to go out, and rather than making it all about James McLean, say to, kind of bang that drum that he's been beaten, saying, well, I promoted young players. It's my last ever game. I can say that in my last game, I brought through Andrew Moran, which he might do, I brought through X, Y, and Z, all these kind of young players. I even brought in Sammy Smodics after all the nonsense that was going on. We will talk about Smodics in a few minutes, obviously, but it's a strange one. I'm going to be at Lansdowne Road, for the New Zealand match, but I'm not exactly excited for it. I think it's going to be a tick the box exercise for myself, sadly, and I hate saying that, but it's just all a bit unusual and odd, and it makes me a bit uncomfortable, to be honest.
It's a bit sad. I think this New Zealand game, it's just no appetite for it at all. But I think Stephen Kenny with that squad, I don't know if is it fair to say he's a bit disillusioned, or does he still think he's got an opportunity here? Is he convincing the FAI? Is there something going to happen from that? He's been very, very loyal to players who've got him where we are, basically, and it's results business, as Mick McCarthy fantastically put last night on Virgin Media's coverage of the games when he was on. He said it's a results business, basically, and that's it. Whatever football level you play at, it's all about results, and that's the crux of it with Stephen Kenny. And I think Sammy Smodics obviously will come on and cover that, but I think I can understand then, not picking Andrew Moore under 21s have got important games as well, so perhaps that's his argument there. But I think, you think back to Martin O'Neill, the dead game in Aarhus when he capped Obafemi and it tied him down. And, that was something that he did. And, we can kind of gratefully look back, I suppose, at Martin O'Neill doing that. Okay, he's fits and starts, I suppose, with Obafemi with injuries and things. But I think Stephen Kenny is going to look back and think, well, I gave opportunities to people. He's been very loyal to Jamie McGrath. Got a goal tonight for Aberdeen, cracking goal by the way. Right, but I think he's going out on his shield. Really, he's just going to say I'm very loyal to people. But again, it brings it home to us though. It's been such a mess this last few games. The whole Ender Stevens coming back into that squad is just mystifying to me. And then he's no good for the next
it's
games.
It's the
and
hypocrisy.
Now we're reliant on Shane Duffy. We're reliant on.
Well, that's the thing.
Like,
it's the hypocrisy of it,
now, won't he? Yeah,
yeah,
Liam Scales will start in Amsterdam, won't he?
He has to. I mean, and
he'll drop Nathan Collins, and you just don't know what's going on. We've run out of ideas.
My issue with it, Martin, and I think the Gibraltar game is maybe the exception where players were actually played in their position, and you could see him much more. Now, David didn't like the performance. I don't know why, because Gibraltar are a poor team, but a prickly team, and it was balanced. It was players playing in their comfortable positions. The week before against Greece, you had square pegs into round fucking holes. You had Liam Scales, who's starting in the Champions League as a centre-half playing left-back. You had Will Smallbone, who's starting as a deep kind of, I wouldn't say a holding midfielder, but a deep midfield player playing as a number 10. You had Alan Brown, who's playing as a number 10, playing as a holding midfielder. It was an absolute mess. You had Jason Knight, who's playing as an attacking midfielder, playing on the left wing. It was all over the place. And that is one of the major issues I've taken with Stephen Kenny. And a lot of these young players, Martin, and I know we need to go through the squad, and this is maybe a discussion for when the window ends, but it's all well and good capping young players. Anyone can cap a young player, but when you're not utilising them correctly, that can be an issue. Gavin Bazunu has had excellent games for Ireland, but he's also conceded some horrendous goals for Ireland. You look at Nathan Collins, he's been moved around from kind of the left of centre-half to the right of centre-half. He played, I think, right back in one game. I think he was nearly playing up in midfield in another game. He's messed him around. Jason Knight, a player who's shown so much talent for Ireland. He's excellent on the ball, but he hasn't been really played in one consistent position under Stephen Kenny. Adam Ide is another player. I don't think he's necessarily impressed under Stephen Kenny. Troy Parrott has been very inconsistent under Stephen Kenny. Evan Ferguson as well. Like, I don't think he's properly been utilised by Stephen Kenny. So it's all well and good Stephen Kenny capping these players and so on. It's actually Mick McCarthy actually capped Troy Parrott, by the way. But anyway, and he would have capped Adam Ide, but I think he was injured. But anyway, I digress. It's how you utilize the players, and it's how you maximize your team. And Stephen Kenny did not maximize this team. There's a good balance. There's a good balanced team available there, and he rarely uses it. And there's the good backbone of a team. Like we spoke about Albania, who are about to qualify for a Euros automatically. On paper, we're better. And if a team is better on paper, you'd expect a manager to utilize what's on paper and maximize what's there. We're not world beaters. We have a team of a lot of championship players. And this is where the Smolix conversation will probably come in. But the championship is packed with international players. Look at the Welsh. The Welsh have a very good chance of qualifying. They certainly don't have millions of Premier League players anymore. They have players from League Two in their last squad. So just bear that in mind. Just to run through some of the players as well, Martin. I mean, Fessi Obisele certainly putting a decent run of games together. And Liam Scales, of course, probably one of our informed players at the moment. Nathan Collins scored a goal the weekend as well. Andrew Bamidele, would you be a little bit concerned there? We actually got a little tip-off. I just want to find it here on Twitter. Apologies. You probably saw it yourself, Martin. So, sorry, I'm on the wrong account. But it is, I won't give a surname away, but it's a Martin as well. Just some information there. So regarding Oma Bamidele at Forest, there's a lot of centre-backs at the club ahead of him, unfortunately. And speaking to someone in Nottingham last week who mentioned he was marked as a one-for-the-future signing. Doesn't look too great for him a few years, unfortunately. And he said here that he's hoping he's wrong on that. So
we read that during the week. I mean, that's just a shit move, isn't it, though? Like, that should have been a move with a loan back. That's like, it doesn't make sense for him. There's got to be more to that. I wasn't, when I read that, I thought that's crazy, that situation. Like, he's not even been in match
the amount of players they signed as well, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's a money move, and I'm not questioning him. He's it's big money for him. But it's a little bit like, Nathan Collins took that move at that time, then he went again, didn't he? And you don't blame them. They're in. It's a short career. The profile was probably quite high then. He captained Norwich. Lots of speculation where he was going to go. The big move came. He's obviously been moved on with his agent, but it's not helped him as a player. And I think his head's been turned by money. And I'm not knocking him for that. Most people would do that, but he's got to be forcing his way out there in January on a loan deal anyway.
He has to, because I look at Bamidele and I think he's. We talk about Collins, we talk about O'Shea. People are talking about Martin McGuinness as well. Like I know you rate him very highly, Martin, but I mean I think Bamidele is the best out of all of them. You know, but he's had injury issues, and now he's not bloody playing. But he's in the squad. I mean, he's in the squad.
Yeah, again, I just don't understand that. Like that's
mad.
But ahead of
Mark McGuinness, you know.
So but there you go. Then New Zealand, he's got to play him. If he's good enough to come in the squad, you play him then, and you go, right. Actually, here's someone I brought in from. You know, he was with the under-21s. I brought him in. We played him in Faro before against Portugal, didn't he? He nearly scored. I think was that the game then? And
that was Serbia, I think.
Serbia,
but he did play very well. He did play very well against in Faro.
So he's a player though. Now he can just say that's his example. The James McLean testimonial match. We might as well call it really what it is. It's that, and then you go right. Well, there's Bazunu. He's a young player, or he's going to cap. You know, Travers or even Max O'Leary might get called up for that one. You wouldn't know what could happen. But then he goes, I'm Bamadelli. There you go. I brought him in at 21. There's your youth going forward. That's what I'm leaving the FAI with. I've captained young players and given opportunities. That's what he's got to do. There's no point having him there. And have Festi in there as well. Festi.
Well, and Jake O'Brien, I know there's an argument that there's still a Ron or somebody. He's starting every week for Leon, you know, and I mean, Leon aren't the Leons of the late 90s, early 90s. They're certainly a team in decline. But for the most part, he's starting in the top flight. You know, he's starting more than Androma Bamadelli. So it's Kenny logic again. Midfielders, Martin again, no surprise. Jason Malumbi isn't playing much again. I would argue for Jack Taylor, you know, who's playing very, very well. Scored last night for Ipswich Town. Excellent player. Doesn't necessarily start every week for them, but he's certainly a player who's who I would rate ahead of Malumbi at the moment. Anyway, I think Malumbi has been another player who, you know, Kenny might credit himself as blooding, but again, it's been horribly inconsistent under Stephen Kenny. Mark Sykes as well, you know, starting every week for Bristol City. Can't really argue hugely with that, except for the fact that there's probably a few players that might be ahead of him. And Jamie McGrath, naturally, you know, he's after scoring a free kick. He's a player trusted by Kenny. 2 assists, I think, against Gibraltar. But on the midfielders, Martin, I mean, you know, I think now is the time to kind of bring it in. Sammy Smodix, what is the story? I suppose just to go through the quotes, I think, first of all, which I've after closing down kind of very, very conveniently. But in short, Stephen Kenny alluded to the fact that Smodix came in for, I think, 2 days in the last campaign, didn't he? He wasn't in the initial squad, can we mention? You know, it's important to mention that he wasn't in the initial squad, but was drafted in and subsequently left after about 2 days. And Kenny said something along the lines of, he can't be away for more than 10 days. So that's very, very vague. You would imagine it's family stuff. I made a good point earlier. I can't remember which. I don't know if it was a WhatsApp group or if it was on socials or what it was, but I made a point. Geez, I'm really blowing my own trumpet. I made a very good point. But I don't think being away for 10 days, if you want to change to Hungary, for example, I don't think there's a rule to say you can't be with an international camp for 10 days. So I don't think that's the personal issues. They have got a couple of English-born players. I think one of them is, what's his name? Styles, not Harry anyway. Is it Liam Styles? He plays for Barnsley, I think. And he's English-born. He plays for Hungary. You'd imagine that he might be on the radar. But I don't think because a player can't be away for 10 days that it's because he's declaring for Hungary. You would imagine it's family issues. You would imagine it's something personal. You would imagine there's something going on at home. The last international window was only a couple of weeks ago. You'd imagine something is going on that he has to be around his family.
Yeah, well, the speculation last time was that, you know, he came back, didn't he? It was personal reasons and talk of a baby and things like that. But then he was back training with Blackburn. So everyone was a bit kind of going, well, is it a health thing or is it a family member or whatever it was? So, you know, they tweeted straight away that he was back in there training with them. So
why does this always happen with these kind of players, man? Because like this guy is he is the informed Irish player. You can argue for Liam Scales, but this guy statistically anyway, and if you watch him, even playing wise, you know, the basic bare bones of football, this guy is the informed Irish player at the moment. He's the top scorer in the championship. He's a very, very exciting player. People say, oh, he's playing in the championship. He's playing for Blackburn, who are kind of a mid-table championship side. Oh, he's 28. It doesn't matter. This guy could add something to the Ireland team. And why is it always these guys? Why is it always the guys who are the talking point domestically, who are having these awkward issues with? And they're never fucking transparent, are they? It's always something mystic. It's always something unusual. It was the same with you remember with Patrick Bamford, with Nathan Redmond, back in the day? And then with players who were available, Michael Obafemi, there was loads of stuff when he was scoring goals for Swansea. He was always out of Ireland squads. Scott Hogan, I mean, he never really amounted to much for us, but when he was banging in goals for Brentford, he was always missing Ireland squads after declaring for various reasons. And again, he went in, but why is it always these foreign players, Martin? And why does this have to be happening? It would be great to see Smodics in the squad, wouldn't it?
It would be. I mean, I was calling for it last time as well, but I think I just have a nagging feeling now there's a lot more to this. And is it that perhaps, he's not happy when he has been in camp, and is he feeling that he deserves an opportunity? Like we've been kind of talking him up. I mean, a lot of people are kind of against this kind of view that why are we reliant on someone who's 28 and stuff, but you can come to international football later on and you can deliver. And
where's Houlihan?
I think that's what we have to be adaptable for. I don't think we can be that picky and choosy to say, well, he doesn't want to be there. And like maybe he is just disgruntled with the Kenny kind of setup and thinking, I'll bide my time. I'm in form. I'm playing for my club. I'm, the main man at my club now.
He's on fire. He's on absolute fire.
So maybe he's just waiting to see how we go future wise.
I mean, we're going into
it. As simple as that.
We're going into a dead rubber and a friendly. If we were going into a situation where maybe we could get mathematically we can, but where we could probably get a playoff or where we were playing for something, there'd be absolute murder that Smodics wasn't in the squad. Like Liam Scales, the amount of times you had to cap him and you decided to give him his debut in a must-win game essentially against Greece. It's the logic that baffles me. And look, maybe it's not fully Kenny's fault. My concern is that Hungary are about to go to European Championships. It looks like they're going to go automatically or through a playoff. And you would worry that maybe he's biding his time. Maybe there is this kind of mystic bullshit narrative because they don't want to say out straight, no, he's going to declare for Hungary and his paperwork is going to take time. That's what my concern is. But I always wonder, surely the FAI at this stage, they've had so many mess ups. You've got Rice and Grealish, you had the Obafemi issue a few years ago, the Tom Cannon thing. Patrick Bamford had told Mick McCarthy he was going to play for Ireland, and then that all disappeared. Surely the FAI have learned by now that they need somebody in a role where they are there to secure players, a kind of player liaison, and not a May Feiner, not a rookie, not someone who's going to be all pally with the players. Someone who actually has experience in player liaising, someone who has experience with player relations, and can, I suppose, do the groundwork to actually secure them. That's what they need after all of these mess ups. It's just another one. And it says a lot that we're getting carried away about a championship player, but this guy is the top scorer in the championship. Look at the amount of top scorers in the championship who've gone on to play at higher levels. Look at is it Goikers who was playing for Coventry? He's gone off to play in the Champions League for Sporting Lisbon. So there's loads of examples, but it's a frustrating one and it's never clear cut, unfortunately. On to the forwards, Martin. It's taken a bit of time to get there. So no surprises really. Aaron Connolly really the only notable admission there. Or omission rather. Mikey Johnson in there again hasn't really played any football. I think he played half an hour for Celtic a couple of weeks ago. And that's kind of it. Troy Parrott back in the squad. Are you happy to see him in?
Yeah, I think it's just Kenny rewarding kind of letting him have the time to settle into the to the move to Holland. It's probably nice for him actually coming over to play there as well. And Evan I think played tonight, didn't he, against Ajax in that very stadium?
Yeah,
I think he came on tonight. So I think sort of saw Sky Sports today as well. Evan Ferguson, a fantastically grounded interview. What you expect from him, and I think that's the future. I mean, look, if you look through that squad, we're not really excited going into these games, but I think it's because of it's the end of the era. Even Stephen Kenny today nearly broke into song. He said, "Whatever will be, will be." Que sera, sera. That was
Jesus, yeah.
But
probably the most fluid he's ever sounded.
No, but if you look up the squad, though, there is reasons to be positive, and I missed the positive of the podcast, but like Evan is just going to be incredible. Like,
well, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. There is an exciting squad there. If you look at that, we've got enough players there. We've got youth coming through as well. They're under 21s, which I know we're going to come on and cover briefly, but. As we evolve now, with a better manager, we should be doing better with these players than what we've done. That's it. I know, you can talk about group of death and everything, and the Greece games.
it's the nature. It's the nature of the performances, Martin, isn't it?
Yeah,
really.
And it's you're not winning games, and performances have been hit and miss, and it's worried me the motivation that when we've gone into double headers or triple headers sometimes that we've always messed up that first game, and then he's got a response out of them, and we've got to be. There's something wrong with the planning there if that's the way it is, and I think that is an exciting group. I don't care what anyone says. A better manager will want to come in and take them on and think they can do better than Stephen Kenny's done.
Well, there's a very good starting team out of there. Like if you look at it, I mean, Fessi Obasele, he's really come on leaps and bounds. Liam Scales playing in the Champions League. I mean, look, they lost 6-0 last night, but I mean, he's been one of their best players over the last month or so. Nathan Collins, an excellent player, starting in the Premier League every week. Jason Knight, very exciting player as well. And then, Ferguson, he's a massive future ahead of him, And Chidozie Ogbene, I suppose one of the kind of most popular players in the Premier League right now, maybe for more, humble reasons, but, certainly something to get excited about. Before we move on to the under-21s, just a little reminder, as always, have your say, leave your comment and get involved. So, Martin, we're going to move on to the under-21s who are playing Norway and Italy, but I did manage to forget that at the start. Maybe it's just my my venom for Jim Crawford. So, just to go through the squad itself, apologies, I have that covered. So the goalkeepers are Tiernan Brooks, Killian Cahill, and Josh Keeley. Defenders James Abamqua, Tayo Adaramola, Sam Curtis, and Samuel Garcia McNulty, Sam Grehan, Boston Lall, Conor O'Riordan, and Sean Rowan. In midfield, you have Baba Odiku, Zach Gilson, and Matt Healy, Keane Levy, Andrew Moran, Ollie O'Neill, and Killian Phillips. And the forwards, Sinclair Armstrong, Conor Carthy, Adaimo Amaku, Johnny Kenny, Armstrong Okoflex, and Tony Springett. Very exciting team, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very exciting squad. I names are now starting to be a bit more familiar with us. Followers of Irish football now. I've seen Josh Keeley actually play for Tottenham. I think under 21s during the week. Did okay, I think. But players now that we've been aware of on the radar, and I think we're looking forward to seeing how they get on this campaign, and then stepping up into the future. And that's why I've said that there is positivity with this. You think about Sinclair Armstrong did very well with QPR earlier on in the season, got his goal, of course, but he's now with the under 21s again, a bit of a mystery call that wasn't it? But it happened. We want him scoring goals now at this level. He's got 2 years, do it here. But these lads are now should be pushing under Jim Crawford to get into that senior squad, because there's opportunities in that senior squad, without a doubt. Like we've spoken about people who are going to be moving aside. I know we haven't really, it's a whole other episode really, but like Doherty will surely be finishing up soon. So Seamus Coleman.
Yeah.
We know McLean's going. So there's opportunities there. Some of these names are now, as I said, very familiar to us. Bosun Lowell. I've had people speak him up to me quite a bit. We've got a natural replacement for James McLean and Killian Phillips, but that's probably from the Poppy kind of angle.
I was kind of like they don't play the same position. Yeah. Oh yeah,
but I thought that was really well handled. To be fair, by his
unbelievably handled club. By the owner.
Really well done.
Really well done. He's a great lad, Killian. He's actually a follower of the podcast, so we like to big him up, and the Kilbarg massive, But do you know what? Jokes aside, he's an excellent player. Fantastic player. He did really, really well with Wickham. I was surprised that I thought he was going to get a crack at Palace. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because he handled himself well in pre-season last year or what it was. I thought he might get a crack with them because he had a very good loan spell last season, didn't he? I think so. I'm looking at that squad. Like Sam Curtis is going to be a senior international before we know it. I really think so. Obviously, I watch a lot of League of Ireland. I just think this guy is a different level. I really do. And Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty, they're aging, and Coleman out of the squad, by the way, out of the senior squad. Again, not to go back too much, but I think Curtis is gonna just propel. I think he's gonna absolutely propel over the next year or so. A couple of other players, we kind of mentioned Matt Healy doing very, very well in Belgium. Zach Gilson hasn't played a huge amount for Blackburn, but again, a really exciting player. Keane Levy as well, doing great for Pats. And my boy Armstrong Okoflex. I think Jim was wrong about him, wasn't he?
I think so, but it's just it's interesting to see, isn't it? I mean, it's a big game coming up as well. It's a big opportunity now for these under 21s to really kind of get their profile risen as well. There's a lot of followers of the under 21s who's down in Cork as well. So I'd encourage anyone to go and watch them, of course. And I just another mention for one of our Risk London members and one of your players, Nick, heading off to the FAI Cup final. James McManus,
yes,
a very proud member of East London. I think he must be our first member who's going to be playing in the FAI Cup final. So I'm looking forward to watching that and supporting him because he's real grounded. I've seen a lot of the previews of the FAI Cup final and seems very grounded. And I think he just done his leaving cert, didn't he, last year? There was a lot of talk about that. Yeah. And but he's just filled out and really developed. We've obviously been watching him as a player coming through the age groups, and he's definitely one I think who's going to just go up the ranks. Very grounded.
Yeah, looking forward to watching him on Sunday. Again, I don't like to bring any Bows bias into it, but I'm very nervous for Sunday. I like to be optimistic when it comes to club football, but yeah, I'm very anxious. Myself and Bream will be at that. I would say to say hello to us, but no, maybe don't. Don't think we're very even though we're Bows fans, I don't think we're very popular amongst some Bows podcasts for some reason. Apparently we're losers.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I don't.
You might get a pint or two at the Irish Town House. Not thrown at you this time, hopefully.
I might park my car there, Martin. Just to see how all of that goes. I'm only messing. To be fair, all of that was directed at Dave, so it's all good. So yeah, look, the under-21s, as we said, they are taking on Norway and Italy in the qualifiers. Gone very, very well, and I know I take the piss out of Jim Crawford, but to be fair to him, he's got a very talented side there. He's finally utilising it, I think, and hopefully we'll see a few of them lads in the senior squad very, very soon. A couple of other words, Martin. I mean, some joyous scenes for Katie McCabe over the last few days. You want to go through that?
Yeah, she made her 200th appearance for Arsenal, playing this evening, I think, actually, and she got presented by Ian Wright with a nice shirt for the 200 appearances. So fairly good that. And actually in London at the moment, the Irish Post Awards are on. And our secretary and friend of the pod, Sean O'Carroll's down at that, and he's been sending me photos of himself with Grace Maloney and Rusha from the women's national team. They're being honoured and presented with an award down there tonight. So fantastic to see. I'm sure I'll get further photos as the night goes on. But yeah, I'll give him a shout out for that. But yeah, look, we're looking forward to the games. Obviously now it's a big following going off to Amsterdam next week. It's full capacity, basically. The away fans are still behind this team, or behind the country, I suppose. And it was always going to be a very good trip, this Holland one. Saturday night in Amsterdam is always going to be appealing. It's a nice one, as I said, at the end of the year. And I'm looking forward to it. The organisation, I say, we've got some links come through already from the supporters liaison officer for the FAI, Gary Spain's given some great travel advice and things. But to be fair, the Dutch supporters groups as well have sent some information as well through, and there's fan zones and things. It's just set up correctly as a big association you would expect. So yeah, looking forward to that trip, and obviously then coming back to Dublin for the James McLean game. And I did say earlier to you lads on our WhatsApp chat that you can see when they're releasing the press releases today, the FAI. This was a game that was part of that double header, wasn't it? The big game, and then it was going to be coming on to this Holland and then this one, and they wouldn't sell tickets individually. And I think if it had been flipped around the other way, it would obviously be more attractive, I think, because you buy the crapper game, don't you, because you want to go to the bigger game. But they are obviously selling them now. I think they'll struggle to sell it out even with the James McLean factor, unless something amazing happens. And
yeah, it's just all a bit bizarre. It's all a bit bizarre, and as I said, I know this sounds awful, Martin, but look, we're a fan podcast, and I suppose I'm giving my reflection as a fan and my feelings as a fan. It's not to be controversial, but like I'm looking forward to this regime being over. Just completely looking forward to it being over. And as I said, I'm finding it hard to get excited about this window, but the one thing I know is that hopefully Stephen Kenny will be gone. And again, this isn't to be controversial. We don't do this for numbers. It's just my feelings as a season ticket holder, as a long-term fan. I'm can't wait for the relief of it. to be honest.
I mean, it is a real strange one because they're trying to sell season tickets, as I've said, on the back of not knowing what games we've got next year.
Yeah.
The numbers will be down. They're expecting to be down as well. And, I've seen some kind of like big name fans, I would say, that I know who are members of our club and stuff, who are probably not renewing and thinking, I'll just gonna wait now and see, because you might as well, in a sense, you can wait and see who our draw is for the Nations League, and who the manager is going to be, and they might wait all the way to June because they're not going to be playing anyone really in March. They're going to be pre-warm-ups for the Euros.
Yeah.
And after June, as we know, a lot of managers leave their jobs internationally after a tournament. So you just don't know how it will be. And, you know, I think they're going to do that same tactic as they've done with the women's, really. If we got a very soft, we're not going to get soft in the context of the women's got quite an easy Nations League campaign that you can afford to do that. You'll beat them anyway. We're not going to have that luxury as the men's, but it might be attractive to a manager coming in and going, I can have a crack at it with this lot, and it's a free ride, isn't it? I mean, that's going to be the condemnation really of Stephen Kenny, that it's harder to not qualify now, isn't it, for these tournaments? I think
well, that's the thing,
like, and everything, and we've failed massively.
Well, the way I look at it, Martin, is 2 nation leagues. It's not only a World Cup campaign that was ended very quickly and a Euros campaign that was ended very quickly. It's 2 nation league campaigns, 2 very achievable groups as well, and they were pretty much over before they started. So you know, it's just something to consider. Will we get into the comments, Martin?
Yep. Let's go.
So as always, guys, have your say, leave a comment, get involved. We do love to hear from you all, and do let us know what you think of Stephen Kenny's squad, the Sammy Smolik situation, whether you're disappointed that Seamus Coleman wasn't involved. You can nitpick. It's absolutely fine. If you want to give out about Dave not being here, or if you want to celebrate Dave not being here, we'd love to hear it. So we're going to start off here.
Dave did say, though, just to say, like, we are going to Amsterdam. Dave said it was a bit of a weird message to me. He just said, I'm kind of refueling or something for Amsterdam. I don't know what he meant by that, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's one for I don't know, revenue.
Maybe,
yeah. Right. So, right. Well, moving swiftly on. So, starting off here with interesting evening, lads. I assume Smod. Again, we've kind of discussed that. It's very unusual. It was explained by Stephen Kenny in cryptic talk, which is never really a good sign. It's usually a cover up for something. Rob Allardyne, lads, what's the thoughts about Smodix? It isn't stacking up again. We've kind of discussed that. It's unusual. Stephen Kenny mentioned the fact that he can't stay away for 10 days. We are speculating his family. There is a lot of speculation from within the fan community that he might declare for Hungary. There's nothing concrete on that. There's absolutely zero reports on that. It would be very... By the way, Martin, I think it's worth mentioning, it would be very difficult for Semi Smodix to switch allegiances to Hungary. And I think even if he did, he probably wouldn't even be available for the Euros if they were to qualify. So I don't think it's that clear cut. I don't think it's necessarily the case. I also saw something recently that he might be a generation off representing Hungary. So it's a little bit more to it. Could it be, you know, remember as well, he was involved in the squad before he was actually eligible. You know, he did come into a squad and he didn't have his paperwork done. Rob Allardyne, again, I feel a bit more buzzed if I saw more in Smodix Azaz added to the midfield. It's another one, Martin. I mean, Finn Azaz has done fantastically over the last little while. Andy Moore, and I think we kind of expected that, didn't we? I mean, it's an important kind of window for the under-21s, and it has been mentioned that he probably will come in for New Zealand, but Azaz might feel hard done by.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's doing very, very well as well, and I think it's just Kenny. I think he's just, I think he still believes these are the lads who've got me where we are and competitive in his own mind. Yeah, but that's it. He's just not enough, is he? He didn't do it in Malta, and he's just going to be very loyal to people who he thinks know the system, and it's easy to have.
But it's an over loyalty to mediocrity. I mean, it's the same as Jason Malumbi. He was very loyal to Jason Malumbi, who was his under-21 captain and who had a couple of good games for him, but he hasn't really done much since, and he keeps rewarding the mediocrity. The one bit of loyalty I would possibly give him credit for is James McLean. He had him at Derry, didn't he? And then I actually think I don't think McLean has exactly torn up trees for Ireland under Stephen Kenny, but he's improved under Stephen Kenny. He's played a much more controlled game. I think he's his most assists under any manager under Stephen Kenny at international level. So, as I said, like a limited player, but for the most part did improve and probably did justify his selection and his loyalty. Another comment here from Rob Allardyne, and what's going on with Omar Bambadeli. Again, we kind of mentioned that. Just can't get in the squad. He's fit. There's just a lot of centre halves at Nottingham Forest. They have a massive squad. They've brought in a huge amount of players over the last 2 years, and sadly, he just hasn't broken into the team. Comment here from Patrick Darby. Smodics is as El Buzetti should be in the Irish setup. We don't need a 35-year-old there. Gone, has had his day. Don't know what 35-year-old is in mind. Look, Zach El Buzetti isn't playing for AIK. I don't think he's really a viable option. So, apart from that, absolutely, I think Smodics and Azaz should be there. But look, Smodics, I think there's a little bit more to it. Rob Aladdin again. Also, I don't see why James McLean comes back in for a friendly. Big fan of him, but he had his day and recognition of his 100 cap. I 100% agree. And maybe a quick word on that again, Martin, for anyone who's missed it.
All I'd say on that is this sums up the Kenny era. I think this goes back to the last squad where before the squad was even announced, James McLean got it in there first that he was going to be coming back and playing his last game for Ireland and retiring. He got that out there before the Irish FA did. So that just shows again, it's a little bit undermining that. I mean, I know he's got a great relationship with Stephen Kenny and everything, but that shows there's a lot wrong in the setup still for me.
But he's not you look at, as I said, some of the greats, like some of the greatest ever Irish players, and you look at, say, your Roy Keanes, your Dennis Irwins, your Mick McCarthy's, your Ray Houghton's, your John Giles's, your Robbie Keane's, your Damien Duff's, your Liam Brady's. McLean's getting a much bigger send-off than any of these players. And I as I said, we have a lot of respect for James McLean. I might slag him off a bit from a footballing perspective, which I think is balanced and fair. But I don't understand how this is happening other than the fact that there's nothing else to celebrate at the moment. There's nothing else to celebrate.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, look, the shit will really hit the fan when we get a load of withdrawals from the current squad. And for the New Zealand game, Jeff Hendrick and Conor Hourihane setting outside in midfield next to him. That would be brilliant. And there'll still be calls for Jack Byrne as well.
Well, McLean's brother will probably get a call up as well.
Jesus, yeah.
Comment here from Interesting Nonsense. Evening, lads. I assume you'll talk about Smodics, which we did. He was in two squads, pulled out after a couple of days each time. The last squad for a family issue, then went straight home to training with Blackburn. Yeah, it doesn't really add up, does it? Patrick Darby, is he gone to concentrate on Hungary getting into their team? Again, we kind of addressed that. We don't actually think he can declare for Hungary anytime soon. Interesting Nonsense. Again, all very mysterious. Now he can go away for 10 days. It's embarrassing. We shouldn't be chasing anyone. So, look, it's just a mystery. It's cryptic. It's always cryptic, isn't it, Martin? With whether it be Michael Obafemi, whether it be even Ryan Manning more recently.
Yeah.
You know, another player that there was clamors for. There's always something cryptic. There's always an issue with our informed players. Comment from David Beckett. Has to be an issue with Smodics and Kenny. Going on his form, he has to be a shoo-in for at least a spot on the squad. Doesn't make any sense. Love the podcast, lads, by the way. Only dedicated forum where the Irish team and players are being discussed. Thanks. Well, appreciate that, David. I mean, there are some other podcasts, there are some other outlets out there. Do check them out. But for the most part, we like to think that we give fans a voice and we don't take ourselves too seriously. We don't take our opinions as gospel. And we do appreciate any positive feedback. Isn't that right, Martin?
That is right, yeah.
Jerry Murray, let's play Zinedine Hendrick, a legend. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Hendrick not in the squad again, which is a welcome relief. Felix Unger, only one question. Why is Kenny still there? I think that is all down to finances, Felix. Ken Gorry, just don't care anymore. I hear you, Ken. Rob Aladdin again. Kenny stuck with Daryl Horgan and Jeff Hendrick when it was evidence both were nowhere near it. Yeah, and that's another over loyalty thing. I've seen a lot of comments on Daryl Horgan actually recently, and I don't know why he's such a scapegoat for it. I mean, he was Kenny's golden boy at Dundalk, and he did get a bit of a run. I thought he actually did all right.
I think he did all right. I think back to that Wembley game. I thought he was actually good at Wembley. But yeah, you know, and the Andorra game, I think as well. He played quite well away.
Yeah, he scored a goal, didn't he? Yeah.
But yeah, look, he wasn't up to the level as we found out. But yeah, look, I think it's a bit harsh to go for him. As you know, there will be no doubt we'll have to do a podcast on and not slagging off players. I'm not a big fan of that, but I think we can do it without being very, very negative and bitchy. We could do the most underwhelming players to perform for Stephen Kenny, who kind of let him down, I think.
Yeah, what on the football pitch or just in general? Comment here from Graham Farrell. There's talk of him. This is Stephen Kenny. So talk of getting the Lincoln job. I drive him there and I can't even drive. I watch the games because I love my country, but I dread every game. Him and O'Neill and the FAI have brought me to this point. Yeah, look, as I said, Graham, I've never, like Martin, you know how I feel about the Irish team, and I have never felt this flat about them. It's not, and this isn't for dramatic effect for the podcast. It certainly isn't. I'm following the team 25 odd years, and I have never felt such a numbness towards them. I really haven't. But tossing the Lincoln job really quickly, there is a mention of that. Of course, Mark Kennedy left and it is vacant. There is talk of that.
Yeah, he was asked about this today, and I mean, if I was a Lincoln fan and he comes in the door in a 3 weeks' time, I'd be going, oh, he doesn't really want to be here, because he just said, this is my dream job, the Irish job. Everything else is worse. It is a step down from this. And I think he's a little bit disillusional, to be honest, that he thinks he's still in with a shout, and he's
well,
to think to kind of rescue this.
And, well, to think he'll get anything better, to think he'll get anything better. I mean,
League of Ireland, he will get a League of Ireland job eventually, because he's a League of Ireland man. He's around the games, and them chairmen probably love the fact he sits around and there comes and visits their stadiums and stuff, and they'll think, oh, well, he was good enough for Ireland, and it's a bit of an old boys club, probably same as it is in England.
I can imagine him. I can imagine him getting some obscure job, like, you know, managing like Dudelange in Luxembourg, or managing a Polish team or something like that. Like he's young kids. Like, I mean, I think his kids still in school.
I think he'll get an Irish job though, won't he? Like I can't see why he would. Why would he want to? I can't see for him. I don't know him, obviously, but I think he's settled into the Irish way of life, isn't he? The League of Ireland, going to that all the time. He knows that very well from watching it. I think there's definitely a way for him. He's young enough to go back in there. I don't
know who would, like, if you think about it, what is he on? $500,000 a year or something? And I'm not saying a League of Ireland team would have to match it, but I mean, I don't know where he'd go. I mean, there's talks. Look, if Stephen Bradley left Shamrock Rovers, they're saying now Damien Duff might get that job. I don't know. I don't think he'll go back to Dundalk. I don't think he'll go to any other club. You know, I could see him, like, look at Mick McCarthy getting the Apoel job, Robbie Keane getting the Tel Aviv job. That didn't exactly go to plan, did it? But I can imagine him going somewhere just unusual, or even like look at Brian Kerr getting the Faro job. Could you imagine him getting? Could he get another international job with maybe a lower ranked team, or maybe a team in the abyss? Someone maybe, you know, maybe a team like, I don't know, someone like a Trinidad and Tobago, or a American Samoa, or just a team that needs basic development at senior level?
I don't think so. And the reason is, I don't think he's got the profile enough to do it. And, you know, I think he's so embedded in the League of Ireland and Irish football that's why he's part of that and was given this opportunity. They went into the whole League of Ireland experience, and under 21s first, and it was all a bit of a shit show, as we know, John Delaney's legacy. But, you know, he's been given the opportunity with it. I mean, you can't say he has not been given a chance. Lots of other factors. We've heard all the excuses from him, but I can't see how he goes anywhere else. Like, very, very low, unless he's got a fantastic agent. And I don't know if he has, you know, to be pushing him and hawking him around lower league England. Is he going to want to move over to do that? And it's very cutthroat, isn't it? I think he'd be a lot more comfortable in Ireland. And look, he's got his money. And I don't think it probably is about money now for him.
I just don't know where he goes. Like, to be brutally honest, it's just, and I said, I don't know where he goes in the League of Ireland either. It's all very unusual. It's all very unusual. But look, I'm sure he'll get a job in some shape or form.
I mean, you know, like you're saying about Robbie and Mick McCarthy. I mean, they're big names, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like in UEFA, you could probably go to UEFA conference and name. Oh, there's a lot of people, probably international nations in Europe. They probably don't know who Stephen Kenny is. That's the fact of it. They probably don't. A lot of them won't have a clue who he is. No, they would know Robbie Keane and they would know Mick McCarthy.
I actually think that his success with Dundalk would hold him with some kind of merit, and I think that's where, you know, as I said, a club from the likes of Luxembourg or a club from the likes of Malta might say, well, this guy revolutionized a relegation threatened League of Ireland team, and if you think about it, a relegation League of Ireland team is probably weaker than a relegation threatened, you know, Polish team or whatever. So I think that will hold him in merit rather than the Ireland job. And at the end of the day, he was a club manager before an international manager. Just moving on with the comments, because we've quite a few to get through. But Rob Allen again, it took how long for Kenny to actually set them up with fullbacks and wingers last game against Gibraltar. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely slow to learn. Felix Unger, Taylor is a substitute. I think that's in relation to Jack Taylor of Ipswich. Yeah, but I mean, Felix. So are most of our players. Andrew Bamadelli doesn't even make the bench for Nottingham Forest, and he's in the squad. I think Jack Taylor was certainly worth a shout. Comment here from Graham. We need someone like that great call. Any good candidate? Not sure who that's in relation to. To be honest, they could have that representative role with UK-based players. I think that was
you having
the player liaison.
Have a liaison person. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have player liaison people. We do have people who are scouting in the UK and know of links of underage Irish players who are eligible and stuff. We do have that, but we just don't have.
Was it David? Was it David O'Toole? Mark O'Toole? Was it?
Mark O'Toole.
Yeah,
O'Toole. Yeah. He does a good job, and it's in difficult circumstances as well. With you do have the England factor. If they're qualifying for England and Wales and Scotland, and they're doing better than us, and they can qualify for several nations, that is going to be a challenge.
Well, the agents are running the game essentially.
They are,
comment from Graham. Frosty needs to start, by the way. I think he means Festy. I like it though. Frosty. What's that, Father Tau calling it? Frosty. Father Frost. Adrian Rochford, we have a better squad now than Trop started with, or that O'Neill had at times. It's tactics, man management, and not picking the best squad 11 that ruined Kenny. I maybe disagree with the Trapattoni comment, but certainly the end of the O'Neill era, I think it is possibly on par, if not a little bit better. We didn't have an Evan Ferguson type player. We didn't have players playing in the Champions League. We didn't have a plethora of young players who had 100 plus senior senior club appearances, like Nathan Collins. We've a lot of players that would probably trump the McCarthy. That would actually be an interesting one. We could do a little comparison of the McCarthy last McCarthy squad versus last Kenny squad, but an interesting one. Graham, yeah, I think that's a correction there. Not Frosty, but Festy. Graham again. Moran will be with the senior setup after the Netherlands. We badly need a left back, left wing back, and Boston would be great to see him and Knight in midfield. I think Boston's more of a holding midfielder / centre half. I think obviously we've mentioned Dennis Kirkin in the past. Ryan Manning obviously doing relatively well with Southampton, but yeah, definitely a problem position. Comment here from David Guinness. Don't know why anyone would expect much from this squad. Can he continue to disappoint in his final hour? The joke, yeah. Absolutely. Don't think we expect much different. And Dave McGuinness, again, how many James McLean games does James McLean need? Yeah, I think we've exhausted that one. But again, I think it is unusual in the context of Irish football history. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Utmost respect for James, but for the most part, I think it's taken the piss. And I actually think I wouldn't say disrespectful to James, but I think it's maybe using James as an excuse to celebrate when there isn't much to celebrate at all. Rob Allardyne, I know people are questioning Duffy, but he's the only real leader we have now. That said, there doesn't look to be real fire in the Irish bellies. It's time for Roy. Oh, Jesus. Dave McGuinness again. It'll be empty. I've tickets and cannot genuinely make it. I literally cannot give them away.
Yeah, and that will be a sad thing for James McLean, really. And I think he should have just gone
retired.
Yeah, he didn't need to do it, and whether you don't even know whether there's something there with the FAI saying, yeah, look, come along and do that. But
golden handshake,
I don't think it would happen. But James McLean could easily turn around and go, he's disappointed in the Irish support. That why didn't they come out and see us and support the team? And the only way they're going to sell tickets is if they announce a new manager, really, and it's the first game for him. But that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. So
no, it's not
really.
It's certainly not. Dave McGuinness again. Agreed and well said. Cannot wait for the relief of this debacle ending. Yeah, again, that's more pessimism from me. That's being backed up, sadly. Never a good thing, really. Kevin McGuinness. So for a change, not David, but Kevin McGuinness. Unfortunately, I fully agree. I can't wait to move on from the Kenny era. Dave McGuinness again. We will never get an easy group as we did for the last World Cup qualifiers. Still galls me that Kenny didn't realise that and spoke of it as that it was an impossible group to get out of. Yeah, look, not a discussion for today, but that World Cup draw, Martin, I mean, in retrospect, like that Serbia team were poor. That Portugal team were there for the taking on 2 occasions. It's disappointing. And I think it shouldn't have been a group that was ended after 2 games. Rob Allardyne, I couldn't spend 10 days with Kenny. Sean Breslin, we have the players that can't even get a place in the Premier League teams. I mean, look, context is key here, Sean. I mean, there's so many international teams with no Premier League players, and they're performing much better than we are. Dave McGuinness, there is something to the Smodic story. Everyone in the comments on various posts blaming the player. It'll all come out when Kenny's gone. Yeah. JC, the New Zealand game could possibly be the lowest attendance in history. Well, we've seen some pretty low ones, Martin. I don't think... I think the James McLean factor will maybe trickle it over some of the lower attendances, but well, what's the grimmest one you remember? I've seen some pretty low ones in my time.
Gee, I honestly can't. Probably in a haze of booze, because I've gone over there and it's been that depressing, and I've still gone. I've like thought, well, I'll try and flush this out of my mindset, really. So yeah, I mean, look, we know it the last game as well. We know, it's half empty. It was at the end, wasn't it?
Or half full.
Yeah, no. Well, exactly. I'm Mr. Positive, thanks. Glass half full. But yeah, we've got to you can't give them away. As like David said, I've got loads of tickets for that. So.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah, it won't be. Yeah, but the FAI will probably...
Martin Delaney, the shop is closed.
Yeah, the FAI will still claim it's a sellout.
Yeah.
Hoover McLaughlin, do we know who's on the standby list? It's never published. No, rarely is. Sometimes it slips into press conferences, doesn't it? I think at one stage wasn't like Rory Gaffney, Graham Burke, and Jack Byrne on the standby list on the back of Shamrock Rovers doing well. So it's always a bit of a mix and match. And then there's actually been standby lists who've been mentioned, and then a player who wasn't mentioned on the standby list bypasses all those players. So it's always a weird one. But look, it's never really published at all, is it? It doesn't really, I suppose, come into print. Dave McGuinness again, a lot of interaction from David. Thank you very much. Kenny's loyalty to players is a joke. It actually hurts us so much as his pathetic tactical decisions. It forces better players out. I think there's been over loyalty in the last few regimes, and I don't think Kenny's been the worst, to be fair. Like Mick McCarthy had his favourites, Trapattoni had his favourites, Martin O'Neill certainly had his favourites as well. I think Trapattoni was one of the worst for it. Colin Suvney, he never looked at McNamara Millwall as a right back option, which I always found strange. Yeah, look, he's been in and out of the Millwall squad. Very, very good player. Similar kind of player to Seamus Coleman. Loves to get forward, certainly very creative in terms of a fullback. I think Festi, quite raw, probably lacks a bit of end product, but he is playing top flight football in Italy. So I think he does just bypass McNamara there. Again, mark my words, Sam Curtis. Sam Curtis will be a senior international player sooner rather than later. Dave McGuinness again, it's too much with McLean. It's a joke. Yeah, completely agree. Adrian Rochford, should we be trying to lock in 17-year-olds who qualify for us? Scotland and Wales have increased their interest in this over the last few years. Could still get Joby Bellingham and Dan Gore. So, of course, Joby Bellingham of Sunderland, Dan Gore of Manchester United. I think, Martin, I don't want to dwell on it too long, but don't the Welsh target lads when they're kind of 13, 14? Like they go way younger than 17.
They do, yeah. Every association's at this, and I go back to the Declan Rice situation and Kevin Kilban, probably with a bit of insight with Lee Carsley at the time, did say that Gareth Southgate was quite happy for Ireland to bring in young players into their squads and things like that, because he said if they do anything, we'll just come in and offer them something different, and that's what they can do, and that's where these rules are open to abuse, basically. I'm working on Dan Gore myself. I'll give you a little snippet of information there. I have got a little insight into Man United. He was actually the lad who, when Bobby Charlton passed away recently, and they done a tribute, and the lone piper walked out, I think it was. Dan Gore was the youth team captain who walked out with Ten Hag and Alex Stepney that day. So, yeah, I'm getting the message across, if I can, to Dan Gore that he needs to declare for Ireland, because obviously that was a big occasion for him, very grounded and done a fantastic job.
Absolutely, and I think he switch his surname. I think he had an Irish surname and switch it. So, definitely
didn't know that.
Definitely a lot of speculation there. Declan Finnegan, James McLean's appearance might add a few to the attendance. Of course, that's in relation to the New Zealand game, and a few comments here from David McGuinness, who's been very active on the page, and I thank you, David. We aren't chasing what's got the path sorted and his allegiances with FIFA. It's Kenny. It's a Kenny issue. That's in relation to Sammy Smodics. Yeah, I 100% agree. We were never chasing Sammy Smodics. He was the one who actually made himself available. He came onto the radar He was the one who went through all the processes of getting his passport changed, and that did come through, and he wasn't selected. Yeah,
I mean, look at David might know more than obviously he's been brilliantly insightful this evening. But what I kind of heard was that he got called up late, as we know. He's probably seeking assurance. Are you going to cap me? Or are you going to play me in these games before I bother traveling over to Gibraltar, to Portugal with you? And if he's not told what he wants to hear, now you could say, well, that's wrong from a player to say that and demand that. But he was a late call up. Why are you calling me up? And if you don't need me, then what's the point of calling me up?
He did that. He did that with Robbie Brady. I think the home French game. He called him up the night before, and he didn't put him in the matchday squad.
Yeah, he was away with his family and stuff.
Yeah,
it's atrocious.
It is.
I know that's the footballer's lot, and
it is, and they're treated well, and it's not really out of their own pocket, and even if it is, it's no skin off their nose. But it's still their time. International breaks. Stephen Ireland. I mean, I know he's probably missed it for the wrong reasons, but like he would always say that he would spend that time to recover and spend time with his kids. So just bear that in mind. Who, by the way, are going to play for England. Dave McInnes again. Superb coverage as always, fellas. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated. If we score and Kenny charges down the line doing his bottle fairy dance celebrations, I'm walking out. Oh, Jesus. And Dave McGuinness, the Lincoln link is baloney. It'll be Dunfermline take 2 if he gets it. Marco Hinitje or Hikeja. Sorry, Mark. Jesus, I'm not good with the Irish surnames. Sooner this group is over and get in a new manager. And David with a very long comment. I don't know if it'll all read out because it's we can only read out a certain amount of lines. Kenny does think he's a shot at this. That's the reality. Not massively liked in certain League of Ireland circles, which I would agree with, by the way. It is the reality of it. He was unpopular in a lot of circles. And I know the likes of Stuart Byrne, who's a real League of Ireland man, wouldn't be a fan of him at all. I don't see him getting a job. He's damaged himself. The stats are awful. He's too low profile to work outside of Ireland, and with Ireland is shocking. Before Ireland, he wasn't linked with anything. So why would he be linked with anything now? After recording such a low win rate percentage, no one outside of Ireland knows who he is. Ronan Tilley, Farrows would see it as a step down from Kerr to Kenny. So yeah, absolutely, I would possibly agree with that. Dave McGuinness, all these nations you're mentioning have brilliant youth setups and great up-and-coming coaches. Don't see them taking a chance on a failed Irish manager. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Again, Luxembourg have more coaches than, or no, sorry, it was Azerbaijan have more youth coaches than us, don't they? Cormac Murray, surely Kenny walks into any League of Ireland job. Will Holland inflict serious pain on Saturday? You never know. It is a poor Holland team, Martin. So just keep that in mind. Dave McGuinness, I still have Jack Byrne as an impact sub when we need to pass. When we need a pass to open up a defence. Jesus, I don't know. I mean, Mark Sykes is in the squad. Shane McGrath's in the squad. I mean, we're tight on creativity in the current squad, but I don't think Jack Byrne's the answer. But there's a lot of lads who aren't the answer either, and they are in the squad. So maybe
we haven't had to play. We haven't had to have that player in our squad, though. He's not even looked at that. I mean, that's the sad fact of the Kenny era. We've not been good enough to even need that player. Of teams haven't had to be, locked down deep against us. So
with the low block, Martin.
Yeah, sorry for the tacticians among us. That's one of the sad facts of this, and that will be something that the new manager has to work out. Because hopefully, when we do rise up the ranks again, we'll play some of those teams, and we'll have to beat that low block, Nick.
Oh Jesus! Sunblock sounds like sunblock. Tony DCFC, I'd imagine that's Tony Derry City FC. Send him back to Lincoln now. Won't be missed. Fuck Derry over when we took the cent back, was it? No, they still use pound. They still use punts up there. Rob Alladine, who do you want as the new manager, lads? Quick one, Martin. One name.
Mick 3.0, because I can't bring myself to go into it. I really don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I kind of want it to be over so that we will hear So we're going to get a lot of exciting speculation. Who is going to be interested in this job? Because then I think I can make a choice. We want to know who's available. Like I want Lee Carsley, for example, to rule himself out and say no, and then we know. And there's no point talking about him as he's a speculator.
It won't be a swift appointment. It'll be months.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
It could be the end of the domestic season in England.
It could be. Yeah, we can go
not the Irish, the Irish domestic season, because we don't want to offend anyone. But it could be the end of the domestic season in England before we know. Because I mean, look, the life of a club manager, and we talk about England a lot, but I suppose their managers who are familiar with their players. I mean, I can't give a name. I think Lee Carsley's the standout one, but at the same time, I look at aspects of Carsley, and I don't know if it's actually going to fit what we need or what we have. You know, I think we need an experienced manager who can maximize a limited pool of players and who can maximize individual talents within a squad. And I don't think Stephen Kenny is remotely capable of doing that. You know, so we need to go for someone experienced and someone with international.
We need
caliber,
really good coaches. That's what it's about. We need a man manager who's really good with the press, who can bring in advertising revenue for the FAI.
Yeah.
Sell tickets, because he's going to be controversial at times as well. I don't care if he's a pundit on TV as well. He can do all that. But we need excellent coaches. That's the fact of it. If you work with these lads who are there, and we're better coaches, as they've proven. When we had Anthony Barry in there, we got decent results. When you have really good coaches, and I'm not knocking John O'Shea with that, because I think he's kind of above reproach under this era. He's coming too late to it, and I think he needs to go and get more experience, of course. Well, he's going to be doing that with Birmingham as well. But I think we need really top coaches in there, and a really good man manager.
I think, like, for me, it's someone with international experience, someone that will play informed players, who will select all of our, who will select our best available squad, who won't rely on favoritism, who won't rely on over loyalty, and someone that will, play a nice brand of football, a functional brand of football, and facilitate us playing beyond our means.
Unless Lee Carsley is available and he goes in a few weeks, all right. If he goes in a couple of weeks, right, and Lee Carsley just comes out and it's all been done, I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's going to drag on, and I think they will not wait. They'll have to wait a long time to get it sorted, to get the right person in, and there'll be lots of speculation. Jonathan Hill will talk about, we want to get the right person, the right candidate. It's such a mess with it, really. I mean, look, I think with the speculation that Chris Hughton's been sacked as the Ghana manager tonight, that's not something I would like to see. Be reactive and go, we've got to get him now because he's available. That's the person who's in contention is for me.
Yeah,
I think with an older person, but
that's another functional manager, and that's another. I think that's going to be a similar situation to someone like Martin O'Neill. If you have Chris Hughton coming in with a very contemporary manager, possibly, but I really don't know. I just, as I said, I want someone who has international experience, and I want someone who will pick the informed players and will pick players in their position that will pick a balanced team. Next comment there, really need to get through the comments because quite a few to go through. So Martin Shields, in Father's Head, they had an over 75s game, I remember well. Surely someone on that team is available for the game against the Netherlands. I don't think half of them are in existence anymore. Nathan Fitzpatrick, why didn't they ask about McAteer? I think it's a paperwork issue. And Nathan, I think it's going to be a bit of a lengthy process for him to get involved. While Bill Mick is in town, which is interesting. I think he does come back here quite a bit, though. Ronan Tilley, Kenny will have a trolley operative in the Kulak Tesco. Jesus. Herbert McLaughlin, Max O'Leary must feel very hard done by, but always turns up. Completely agree. Having a very good season for Bristol City and playing more than some of our goalkeepers. Cormac Murray, did Kenny rub a few people up the wrong way in the League of Ireland, seen as arrogant? Yes, he did. Certainly shells in the early noughties. There would have been a lot of conflict there. He is unpopular in certain circles, more so from being an opposition coach rather than from being, well, now some clubs he has, tarnish his name a little bit, but for the most part it was as a result of being an opposition manager more than anything. Dave McGuinness, Chris Hughton with O'Shea and Stephen Reid as his number 2 is not the worst shout. Again, having good coaches alongside him. Kevin McGuinness, Kenny said today he had capped players which had got moves to better clubs. Was that why he was brought in? What will he come up with next? Yeah, I think that does a massive disservice to the likes of, St. Kevin's, the likes of Joseph's, Belvedere, all of these fantastic academy teams who develop those players. Stephen Kenny didn't develop them. Stephen Kenny might have capped them, but they were going to be capped eventually. So I don't think Stephen Kenny can take credit for moves that these lads are going. Yes, being an international player ups your value. Yes, it does. Open up opportunities for you, but I think it's wrong for Stephen Kenny to take credit for that. Cormac Murray, Rafa Benitez as manager for him. Is there any realistic chance of pursuing Graham Potter? Rafa, not the worst option. Again, Graham Potter looks like he's going to get the Sweden job, doesn't it? But what would you think of Potter? Quick brief word on that, Martin, just before we finish up.
I think anyone who you got to be very careful with what we wish for. If anyone coming in, like when we had Martin O'Neill, and he's still on the radar of clubs and he does well with Ireland, then they come calling and stuff. I think we need someone who's going to be very committed to the kind of project, basically. The 2 years with us, 2 campaigns with us. Potter, if he came in, I think we'll have a massive uplift from whoever replaces Stephen Kenny. We'll get some good performances out of the team because they should be doing better. But I think then with that, you're going to have a lot of speculation. You're going to bring attention to the manager, and he might be wanted by other teams then because football's just so unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen.
My concern with Potter is he was very much a club manager. He didn't just manage the team. He managed the club as a whole. He managed the philosophy of the club. You don't have that at international level. You have a couple of weeks. You have a couple of weeks on end. That's possibly one of the reasons that Stephen Kenny failed. He transformed a club. He was able to manage a club, not just manage a team or manage players. He was able to manage the club from the top to the bottom. Say with Potter, he's a very philosophical manager, and I don't know if you've the same opportunity to do that short term with the international team. And at the end of the day, Martin, Stephen Kenny talks about the future, but look, every campaign that goes by is an international tournament gone for fans, gone for players. You have to think short term sometimes as well. The long term is in the development side of things, and a lot of the development is actually done by players individually at their clubs. Yep. David McGuinness, if Bradley goes, I can confirm that Stephen Kenny won't be within 100 miles of Tala. He is not wanted by anyone at the top of Rovers. That's a fact. They wouldn't want him into direct parking, never mind manage a team. Yeah, I can see that in many ways. Hubert McLaughlin, you're describing Mick McCarthy in who we need, lads. No objection from me on that one. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a possibility. He's free, he's available.
It's very much a possibility. You got to remember that the whole changeover was, it was a bit messy, wasn't it? Honouring deals and stuff from previous CEOs and things like that. Yeah. There was contractual stuff with that, as we know, with Robbie.
A contemporary of yours, Martin. A contemporary of yours, maybe.
Yeah.
No comment.
So it's not beyond the realms, and even just to, you know what? It's not the worst shout in the world. Do you know why? Because we'll go a Nations League campaign, and then you can just say, right, we'll do it all again. It could just be, let's just see Lee Carsley available then.
Well, that's the thing.
You just don't know.
It depends on the brief, It depends on the brief. I think the brief for Mick McCarthy last time was just put out an experienced functional team, get us to the playoffs and take it from there. And that's what he did, where the brief could be, look, integrate these young lads. We want to play a bit more of an expansive style of football. Mick is a man manager. I think Mick will get more out of this team than Stephen Kenny did, even if the football didn't look as nice. David McGuinness, again, if not Chris Hughton, bring back Mick. Martin Shields, any mention of Neil Lennon to come into the set? Not sure as manager, maybe assistant. Oh, Jesus. And to finish off, I think with an appropriate... I can't finish off with the Neil Lennon one because I don't want to give everyone nightmares. But to finish off with Cormac Murray, and thank you very much. We're going to pat ourselves on the back. Fair play, lads. Great coverage. Thank you very much, Cormac. So we are going to leave it there. Thank you again for all your comments.
I do have an announcement. Can I have my announcement, Nick, before we go?
Absolutely. Is this to do with touting or sorry?
It's not to do with touting. No, Nick the Greek. No. No, I do want to let everyone know, if anyone in the London area, December the 14th, we've got Liam Brady coming to the Claddering in Hendon. We'll be putting up the posters and stuff like that, but we're doing it for charity. It's Liam Brady's coming over, so. Well, he lives in London anyway, but he's coming to our supporters club event, our Christmas party, but it's just open door policy. We're going to be selling copies of his book, and we'll be sending the Irish Jacket edition, which is very special. I've had to really persuade him to do that. I've read the book, fantastic read, to be fair, but we're going to be doing a Q&A with him. And Liam Brady, we've had him as a guest several times. Fantastic. You will have seen all his he's been on the book promotional tour, obviously, but we'll be asking the questions that the fans want to hear the answers to. And I would obviously recommend getting the book. But yeah, Claddagh on the 14th of December. That's northwest London. So if you are over doing a bit of Christmas shopping or anything, or visiting any relatives, Nick, I know you sometimes pop over to London. But yeah, more than welcome to come up to the Claddagh Thursday night. We'll have good crack, music, entertainment. We've got a fantastic raffle as well. But Liam Brady's going to be there. So that's something that we wanted to let everyone know about.
Yeah, so if you're in London, do get along to that. If you need tickets, Martin will sort you out. So we are going to leave it there. As always, be sure to subscribe to our different socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. For all the older folk, we're on Facebook. And of course, we are on YouTube, which is Dave's Baby. Do give us a subscription there. We are trying to build that. Again, we wouldn't describe ourselves as YouTubers, but it certainly does help the podcast. And as always, wherever you're listening to the podcast, whether that be on our website, whether that be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else, illegal streams, hopefully not, do give us a subscribe. We make absolutely no money from this, although Dave might claim we do. It does help us big time. And as we always say, we're always trying to grow the podcast, and we can only do that with the support of the fans who we do this for. So until next time, we will be back fairly soon with plenty of international window build-up. And again, apologies we haven't been on in the last little while. Unfortunately, we have all been unwell. But until next time, all the best. And take